Okay guys, what is up? This is Nepana God. I'm here with another short video just to give you a couple of tips on the strategies simplified and modified. The tip I wanted to give you, in addition to my last video that I had made on using the eye of God for higher time frame analysis, I just wanted to share with you that it's not every setup that setup that you take when the indicators of a bot or oversold that actually play out. Okay, give me a second guys. Right, okay. I was saying it's not every setup that when the indicator reaches of a bot oversold that actually plays out. This is the reason why some people have been coming to my inbox saying the strategy doesn't work, we just wait for the buffer bot oversold. But let me tell you another tip that I always tell people that usually come to buy. What now happens is there's another thing that I noticed, right, whilst I was in the process of modifying this. That yes, you can wait for the green indicator to reach over bot oversold, but it is not something that is to count on every single time. The best setups, however, are when the green line reaches oversold or overbought and there is a gap between the two of them. For example, here. Just that let me try switching off to a different index. For example, here we've got our this can be counted as our peak low. I'm just using the 1 minute time frame, but what I'm sharing with you works for every time frame, right? We've got it here. And so when the green reaches oversold or overbought and there is a gap, this gap between the two MACDs, this gap between the two MACDs, it usually means that it's a very nice setup, right? Because not every setup that when the MACDs are overlapping like this actually turns out well, right? So let's look for another example. For example, this one. I'm just using historical price data. This being the oversold zone. So as you can see here, the green line is within the zones of oversold, but there's a gap, like again that I was mentioning, between the two, and the price actually ended up buying. So I always tell people, keep your indicator in the middle of the screen. Don't move it about like this. Keep it in the middle of the screen and keep it unzoomed on a smaller time frame. For example, giving another example, this is on Crash 500. It's still on M1. There is our peak here. Here the setup presented in there was a gap between the MACD line, right, between the two indicators, because this indicator is simply comprised of two MACDs, right? This indicator settings, you can always get them for a small fee at my Telegram handle that I'm going to be using below. But anyways, something that is very simple. Some of you guys have already figured the indicators out, so I don't have any reason to sell them to you. For others who haven't and still want to purchase and learn more about how to use it, you're free to hit my Telegram and I'll teach you and I'll sell it to you. So right, this is the difference between the two MACD lines, right? And this is oversold. This is a gap here. It was a very nice setup. And matter is that your middle level, the 50 level, oftentimes is your take profit if you're scalping. Here, for example, this is where your take profit would have been. Let me attempt to make this a lot more visible. Right. So this is where there was your middle line here. So your entry would have been somewhere around here and your take profit somewhere around here. But at the same time, you can always wait for it to reach at the opposite end, like here, and you could still take your profit. So using another one, let's say maybe Boom 500 as an example, the main trick that I'm sharing with you guys is take your buy or your sell when the MACDs reach overbought or oversold and there's a gap between the two MACDs, the red one and the green one. You can use any colors of your choice, but this is what I'm just trying to say, right? So this is a simple modification from the original one that I sent for you here. You don't just wait for the overbought or oversold, but check if there's a gap between the two lines. For example, here is where our peak was, and then on the indicator, this is where it was, right there. So before you take an entry, check on whether or not there's a gap between the two MACDs. and then you can take your entry, you can take profit at the mid level or when it reaches oversold like it is right now. So, the last example on this one, right, here, this was your entry where it is you had 2 entries, but when you move the screen you still had 2 entries. So this was the first one when there was a gap between the 2 MACD and the green line reached oversold. Then there was another one in which the green line also reached oversold, and you had both entries that you could have taking a profit here at the mid level or when it reached oversold, over both extremes, sorry. So generally that's how it goes. Just a simple trick that I noticed that will actually help you. Because the reason I was telling you all this is because it's not every setup in which the green line reaches oversold that it actually buys. But again, like I advised you then, it's always a good idea to check the higher time frame that you would have opted to use. For example, on M15 here, we know, for example, that this thing is going to be selling because price is below these 3 indicators on the screen. So we know that as far as trend is concerned, we are selling. So we'll be waiting for sell opportunities or even on M1 to avoid being caught by a spike. So we're just waiting for the green line to reach there, and then afterwards to drop. Here you can already see a gap between the 2 MACD lines, so we can wait for this green line to go there, then it drops, then we take our sell. For example, here is where I can bet you that this was actually a pullback to the 3 indicators on a higher time frame. I'll prove it to you shortly. And this was where our sell setup was. Right there. When the green line reached overbought condition, it was now in selling zone. Here is where our sell was. And if you switch back to M15, this is when price had pulled back to those 3 indicators, and we knew that it's going to be pulling back and selling. So this was where our entry was. So yeah, guys, that's just it. Just in order to enhance the way you use the strategy, just wait for the green line to reach overbought or oversold with a gap between the MACD lines, the MACD histogram, sorry, and then you'll be good to go. Alright guys, it's your boy Nefana God. I have told you before, some people have come to my Telegram channel insulting me, blah blah, why are you selling it, why don't you give it for free? Well guys, come on, there are a lot of free strategies out there. You can always go for them. There's no reason to insult me. If you're not interested, it's still okay, it's still fine. Like I've said, others have figured out the settings already. It's still fine. For those who also want an in-depth explanation as to how they work, you feel free to contact me on the Telegram handle that I'll attach in the description. It's $50 to buy the indicator and the strategy, as well as I'll add you to a group that will be explaining how it goes. If you're not interested, please don't contact me. If you are, then my Telegram handle will be in the description below. Until then guys, sure thing.